Hello and welcome to Pro Home Inc.'s Housing Counselor's Corner, where each month we produce a short video discussing different topics such as home buying, housing, counseling, and financial literacy. I am Paul Chase, the Managing Director for Pro Home, along with Terry Arruda, who is the agency's Program Manager and one of our housing counselors. Also with us today is the video series Executive Producer, Leslie Rhoda. Before we begin, I'd like to remind our viewers that the opinions expressed are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of Pro Home Inc. Also, this program is for entertainment purposes only, and you should always consider contacting Pro Home directly at 508-824-2514 when it comes to your specific real estate and counseling needs. Today, Terry and I are going to discuss the home buying process that follows an accepted offer, particularly for first-time home buyers. So, Terry, the last episode we talked about the home search and putting in an offer. So our offer has been accepted, and this particular video is giving some information about what that process entails now that the offer's been accepted, right? So, starting from the beginning, after an offer's been accepted, typically we go into purchase and sale agreement?
Yes, yep, and then we'll follow up with a home inspection.
Okay, so purchase and sale agreement is basically the offer accepted. It's in a long contract. So I always tell people to be aware that the contracts are, they're usually 10, 12 pages of a lot of legalese, right?
Yep.
But basically the contract has what in it?
Well, it will cover your contingencies for financing,
Yep.
home inspection.
Yep.
Also the dates to when you need to comply with signing the purchase and sales, along with the commitment date for your loan,
Okay.
and then closing date.
Yep. Talks about deposits and
Yep.
everything else. Okay, so good. So yeah, and basically what happens is both parties sign it, and the down payment's then given, right, during the purchase and
Yeah.
sale, and it's held in escrow by one of the agents.
Yeah.
Yep.
Generally the seller's agent.
Yep. So what we normally say is that if you're not comfortable with signing a contract, when you read it, that you should always
Have an attorney review it.
have an
Your
attorney review it.
it.
Right, right. Because there are different attorneys. There's an attorney for the bank for the closing, but they don't represent you. They represent the bank. Now, most attorneys will say that helping you actually helps the bank. So, they're certainly not. They're not going to do anything that counteracts the buyer's information. But if you feel uncomfortable, it's always worth hiring your own attorney. I mean, when you're talking about the most expensive asset you have, a couple $100 to have your own attorney there, sometimes can make you feel more comfortable.
Yeah.
Some folks can't afford that, and that's fine too. But if you can, that's something you want to consider, right? Okay. So then we've signed the purchase and sale. So let's talk a little bit about the process. Some people don't understand even how long it takes from the time you sign an offer to the time you actually close, right? And there are several factors. One being if the person that sold their house has to find another house, that could be an issue. But aside from that, typically right now in this market, about 45 days.
Yeah. 30 to 45.
30 to 45 days you can expect to close. So we've signed the purchase and sale agreement. What typically happens at that point?
You'll want to do your home inspection,
Okay.
Or any other inspections if you're going to need to do pest inspection. If you decide to do a lead inspection, you'll want
Sure.
to do all that at that time.
Okay.
Once you complete the inspection and everything's good, then you can go ahead and move forward. If there's issues, you want to negotiate the repairs and discuss that with your agent and see what the best options are.
Okay. And when we say negotiate repairs, we're talking major repairs.
Yeah.
Too often I see, especially first-time home buyers who don't understand, they go through a home inspection, and a home inspection can be scary. Most houses that are not new, they're really old, and they have problems with them. But that's just the way they are. We don't necessarily advocate for a buyer saying, hey, gee, this door is not working right, or, there's a problem with whatever, a socket or something. It's more the major pieces like
electrical panel,
a ceiling, like a roof. If a roof is in really bad shape, or or whatnot, or in the case of a lead issue, that the lead could be pretty serious too.
Or asbestos. Sometimes they find
asbestos.
asbestos wrap, and they don't know that until the inspection takes place.
Right, and radon if they decide to do a radon test. So these types of things are typically negotiated when it's really bad.
Exactly.
Because most sellers, especially in this market, most sellers will say, well, we'll just agree to disagree, we'll move on, I'll put the house back on the market, and all of a sudden you're going, whoa, what happened?
Yeah.
I've lost the house. So not that we're saying that there are no rights to the buyer, but certainly you need to temper
this market, yeah.
expectations. Every home has issues, and a lot of times a home inspection is there just to simply point out the issues.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
So then we get past the home inspection, and then we're working on the mortgage, right?
Yeah.
So there's a lot to the mortgage. We won't get into all of the financial stuff because we could do a whole series on the financial piece. But there's the appraisal part. That's one of the big pieces. There are times, especially in this type of market, where the appraisal might not come in, right? So what happens in that situation?
One of the things I've been seeing people put is to put in their subject conditions to pass the appraisal.
Okay.
How do I want to say that? The appraisal meets the purchase price or more, but definitely not under. And then they can renegotiate with the seller, giving the seller the option to either come down on their price. The buyer can choose to pay the difference, or they can just null the deal.
Okay. So there are options.
Yeah.
Depending on how much it is, the buyer may be able to put up a little bit more money towards it, because the appraisal is really the piece that the bank says, okay, it has to, the money we're giving you for this property has to be able to equate to the property itself.
The value, yeah.
So that's what the appraisal's for. And again, we're talking, basically while we're educating first-time home buyers, that the appraisal needs to appraise, and if it doesn't, then, like you said, either the seller needs to renegotiate a little bit and come down to that appraisal price, or the buyer needs to put a little bit more money in, because the bank is not going to finance the property if it doesn't appraise.
Correct.
Okay. So we have the home inspection, we have the appraisal, they're going through the mortgage piece at that point, which, they'll constantly be asking you for forms throughout the whole process. And don't be surprised when they continue to ask you for the same form that you already sent to them. And then they do another credit report, even though they did a credit report before. That's all normal when it comes to the underwriting process. So, just kind of take that into consideration. It can be stressful for people that have never gone through it before. So what happens next? We get through the mortgage contingency, and we say we have a clear to close. So what would be next after the clear to close?
They will want to get homeowners insurance.
Okay. Yep, because the bank's going to require that. In most cases in Massachusetts, they'll roll the homeowner's insurance and the property taxes into the mortgage.
The mortgage.
Yeah,
They'll need
they
to get their
escrow
binder.
that. Yep,
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
So you'll have to be prepared to do that and find, you can choose the place that you want to get your homeowner's insurance on, but it rolls into the bank's cost of the mortgage. Yeah. And the other thing for first-time home buyers, it's good to let people know, we always think of you close on a house and you have your mortgage, and your mortgage doesn't change, but your mortgage does in fact change. Yeah. Even though the price of the house, you've bought the house and it's the set price, and your fixed rate is your fixed rate, because things like property taxes or homeowners insurance goes up a little every year, you can always expect your mortgage costs to change a little bit. So it's very important for people to understand it could go up $40, $50, maybe $100 over a couple of years' time. So be prepared on that. If you're at the top ceiling of your debt payment and you're like, this is going to be tough, but I can make this, understand then within a couple of years, it may go up even $100, $150. Right. So that might make the difference in the house you want to buy and the cost. So getting back to the transaction again. So we've got our insurance binder, and we've got a clear to close.
Utilities.
So, yep. Now at this point, couple of things, and I'm just going to really mention them quick, and that is, if the seller has a place that they have to buy, that could change the amount of time it takes to actually close on the property, because they're on the other side buying a property and they have to close within a certain period of time, And the people they're closing with might
I
have
have a,
s-
I have a property.
right. That's that's
Becomes a domino.
right, and it's called chain transactions, right?
Yeah.
So aside from that happening, um, as a regular closing comes to a close, you have things like you said, utilities is one.
Yeah. Walkthrough.
Water, or if it's not water and sewer, but it's Title V, if
Right.
it's septic, you have to
Have a
have
Title V certificate.
Title V certificate, right? So, real quick, a Title V certificate, how does that work? So, if the property you're looking at does not have water and sewer, and it's got, it has a septic system, right? You have to have a Title V certificate. That's not like the home inspection where, you don't have to necessarily have it. You have to have it. So, what happens? You have a Title V company go in there.
Generally, the seller's responsible to have a Title V done. They find out whether it passed or failed.
Okay.
And if it's failed, they'll put failed in the agreement, and then they'll have engineered plans drawn up, and then they'll end up having to pay the cost to have the
The
septic done.
upgraded.
Upgraded.
Or in some cases, completely Yeah.
Done.
redone. And when it comes to the septic system, it doesn't always happen by the time the property closes, correct?
Right.
Right. So what may happen if you hear of, gee, we'd like to put money in escrow once the property closes, that could very well be on a Title V.
Yeah.
That's common.
Yes.
Okay,
I've seen
so they put a certain amount of money in, so the Title V has happened. If it fails, and the sellers are responsible to fix it in order for it to happen. And this is more of a bank obligation, right? I believe
Yes.
the bank requires the Title V to be passed. So if it doesn't pass and you're coming up to a closing, there are instances where you can put, say, $10,000. Say it costs $8,500 to fix the Title V, the septic system. They'll put $10,000 in escrow, and after it closes, within 6 months, it's got to be done or whatever. And they'll take that money from escrow, and whatever's left will go back to the seller.
Yeah.
So that's what happens with a Title V.
Yeah.
Or you can be fortunate enough and the Title V passes,
Yeah.
and you continue to roll on your process, right? So you talked about walkthrough. So that's pretty much when you get to the end of your purchase and sale and your acceptance, and you've gone through your mortgage and your home inspection. Once you get to your clear to close and you go through your walkthrough, it's typically one of the last days before you hand over the keys.
Yeah, walkthroughs usually either done a day before, a day or
Okay.
two before.
And the purpose of that walkthrough is?
Make sure everything is the way that you had seen it last. Sometimes when people move, there's things that they didn't see before,
Sure.
so they address that.
Yeah, it should be somewhat in good condition as far as
Right.
clean. And it's primarily so, I mean, I think like you were saying, there are times where you didn't realize, like the swing in the backyard, all of a sudden you're going through the walkthrough and the swing's not there anymore. And you go, well, I thought the swing was part of the property. And so things like that may happen that you want to make sure
Right.
you're both in agreement on. So the walkthrough is important to make sure the condition of the house is ready to be moved in, but also that the pieces that are in that house are the way they're supposed to be.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And then we have the walkthrough. After the walkthrough is done, we get to the closing table. Typically at the closing table, we have the buyers, the sellers, the bank attorney,
Yep.
and if you hire an attorney, that attorney
Your
should
attorney.
be there as well. And it takes about 45 minutes to an hour, and there's a whole lot of
papers.
paperwork. Whole lot of paperwork. There is, so much paperwork, but expect that. Expect a lot of signing, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And expect to bring your license with you for the signing.
The license is important, and potentially they'll tell you ahead of time if you've got to bring like a bank check. Personal checks are never allowed at closings, from what I understand. It's got to be like a bank certified check in order to suffice. Like if there's any money owed on either side at the end when they figure out the utilities and if you've got oil, like the amount of oil that's still in there, that goes back to the seller when they figure out that closing cost. And you'll get a closing statement 3 days before.
Right.
And that closing statement will tell you and the seller how much either one of you may need to bring to the closing in addition because of tax stamps and all this stuff. And whatever money you do have to bring has to be in a form of a cashier's check or a bank check. Okay. So we're at the closing, everybody signs, and it's not official till they actually record it on the deed, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Which could take a day or two, and depending, like sometimes when it's a Thursday or Friday, it might not be till the following Monday. Typically, they still let you move in,
Yeah.
but it's not recorded until it's recorded in the Registry of Deeds.
Yes.
So, well, I mean, other than that, what do you think? Do we miss anything on the process?
I don't think so.
No, I think we.
I think we got everything.
Yeah, I think we pretty much hit on everything. And the nice thing is, going back to our services at Pro Home, the first-time homebuyer seminar covers all of this.
Yes.
And so does one-on-one counseling. If you need one-on-one pre-purchase counseling, we have that available at no cost to people looking to purchase homes, first-time home buyers and stuff. So, all this information is great and it'll help someone, but at the same time, if they're a little nervous about one or two areas, certainly they can call the office, talk to you, talk to
Absolutely.
Janet, talk to Jordan, and you guys can help walk them through it.
Yep.
Which
We're
is,
there for the guidance.
that's right. And that's why we're here.
Yes.
Well, that is our time for today, and I'd like to thank Terry for joining us. Thank you so much. And as always, our staff at Pro Home Inc. is available to talk with you one-on-one about a variety of housing counseling and financial literacy issues, many times at no cost to you. So if you would like more information on our agency, simply log on to www.prohomeinc.org or to our Facebook page at Pro Home Inc. You can also contact the agency for further information to make an appointment at 508-821-2514. Again, we serve the Greater Taunton and Southeastern Massachusetts area. Thanks for watching today, and we hope you will tune in again next month to Pro Home Inc.'s Housing Counselor's Corner. Have a wonderful day.